it's around taking responsibility, and rather than like blaming everybody else and pointing the finger out, but you point one finger out, you're pointing three fingers back in.
Right.
So just be really careful. Like, how have I orchestrated this for myself to learn it again?
Hello and welcome to the podcast Biz on the Brain with your host, me, Annemarie, where we talk about anything and everything around authenticity, finding back to yourself, reacquainting with maybe your past, working on the shadows, finding just peace in your life and creating it in a way that feels nurturing to you and also have like a beautiful effect on the people around you. Just generally good vibes and lots of free-flowing conversation. And this particular episode with the wonderful Jamie Shūjūn, who is a Singaporean now residing in Australia, who does all kinds of different things around holistic mental well-being and really finding back to your roots of being okay with who you are, what you're doing, what you've done, just finding that inner peace and unblocking wherever that might be, because we're so inundated in the society with self-help. It's almost a new productivity way to keep us busy and to optimize ourselves, when at the end of the day, it can be simple. And we talk a lot about that in this podcast episode and at length. But at the core of it, it's just self-acceptance and that extending that to other people, the compassion, the being in the moment, the being embodied, to really just not resist and allow self-expression, all the emotions, all the feelings without letting it boil over, but also holding the space for yourself to sit with it and not just keep it sizzling. All of that is such a beautiful conversation, and I don't want to keep you too much from it. So without further ado, here's a wonderful Jamie.
Hello, and welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you on. I feel like we're strangers and yet not, because we had one discussion. You jumped on a thread which I was like, hey, I need to talk to other manifesto women online who want to be on a podcast. And you were like, yes. And so we chatted, and you're like, you should have recorded that. It was a whole lengthy conversation. We were vibing, and so now we are here continuing in it. And that's what I love about the internet, just making this possible, because you're in Australia. Hello to that. Aussie. Give me. What you're not giving? Yes, thank you. Oh my God. Don't leave me hanging, mate.
Oh my God, that's such a, love it.
Oh, I know. That's such a bogan thing to do, but I don't care. And
I love that you know the word bogan.
Yeah,
the best.
I know. Well, I lived in Australia for 8 months, so I kind of feel like I'm honorary sometimes. I self-proclaimed, okay? I gave myself that title. So
Love
I've
it.
seen and lived a long life in Australia. And I can tell you the 8 months stay felt like a decade of lived experience. Like Australia tried to kill me many times, and I persevered. So I feel like, yes, I have some form of badge of honor. I don't know.
Yeah, well, Australia is the solar plexus center in the earth chakras in the whole world. Australia is the solar plexus center, so it is the center of Australia with Uluru. That's the solar plexus, personal power.
Sense. How do why? Like, how would that be? Like, who decided that? Like, who found that out? Like, how?
Don't know. Google.
But it just makes sense. Like, when I was at Uluru, and I even wrote like a whole blog post about it, but like I was there and I was just in awe. Like, it just felt so phenomenal and so vibrant and full of something, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And a lot of people were just like bored. And I was like, how can you? Like, do you not feel it? And people were just like, it's just a rock in a like straight sphere, and nothing's happening, and it's boring, it's just red, it's just not doing, and then they couldn't climb. Boo-hoo, you shouldn't climb it anyways. And we walked around the circumference like for 4 hours or something, and the entire time, me and like another person on the group, like we were all at that point family, we were just like coming up of all of the adjectives, all of the superlatives we could think of to describe it, nothing came close. We were like phenomenal, extravagant, awe-inspiring. Like it's just like hitting all of the thesaurus at each other. It was just like amazing. And we were just like, I can't. And then the second time I visited, actually, the skies opened and rain poured down. It was magical. And then the entire rock turned silver, like completely silver. And then all of the streams just like gushing down the side, like the little rocket cranes and all of that. It was just like, oh my God. It was just the most magical thing. And like the vibe changed. Everything became even quieter, and then seeing different sunsets, sunrise. It just, like the colors, I just love that place so much. I can see how that's like holy. And so many people were like, oh my God, of course, when I go travel, it rains. Boo-hoo. I was like, you do not understand how rare this
No,
is.
exactly.
It's a blessing.
Exactly.
Oh my God. And so I was very, very happy to go there multiple times and have all of these madness. Also, yeah, Uru is nearly where they just like killed me with, oh, we're not washing hands because like we're roughing it. I'm like, ew, gross. And then they made me get whatever, I don't know, nobody found out because there's no doctors. So I was just like put in a den, like in some dingy hut, and then they just all left me to see like good riddance with like a Gatorade and like scrambled eggs. And I, well, didn't eat or drink for 3 days, and I was hallucinating and put me on an IV drip. I was allergic to that, and it was just like nearly died.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
I was like, that was just
sounds a little bit intense.
I know. But I like, in retrospect, it was just, I don't know, like some form of baptism of like ridiculous chaos. Like wash it all out.
Of course.
I was trying
exactly.
Get the people pleasing out. Just like make people wash their hands. Okay. Anyway, so that was a whole weird introduction of myself, but I want to talk about you. So tell me about you. Tell me what you do, all of the beautiful things, because you're amazing. So tell the audience.
Thank you so much. It's so lovely to be here. What about me? My name is Jamie. I am originally Singaporean born, and I live in Australia 21 years from yesterday. So it's a long time.
Celebration.
Thank you. Anniversary. And therapeutically, professionally, I'm a mind-body practitioner and a transformation space holder. I have tried and, tested so many different labels. Again, what even is the point of labels? Because I'm like, can't I just be Jamie?
Right.
But yeah, those are the explanations, if you like, that I have deduced down, and they may change over time, but I'm really, really passionate, and what I specialize in is supporting people through significant periods of spiritual self-transformation, and being almost like the midwife to support them through that portal of initiation, of self-discovery, of self-empowerment. And one of my specialty is to connect them with their emotions and to feel empowered and confident in expressing the emotions, and also be able to trace that through their lineage, through, their life experiences, through their ancestry. And I'm experienced and trained, certified in many different modalities. I'm going to use these terminologies from the shamanic tradition, from the underworld, so the shadows, the ancestral lineage, the middle, this life, how do we look after our body, and also the upper world with working with the Akashic records. So I have a full suite of very many techniques, and that is something that I'm really passionate about, because there's no one size fits all, and that's the thing that I have that has driven me this whole time over the last 8 to 10 years to know that if we just taught yoga, we're not addressing so many things. If we just looked at the ancestral lineage, then what about this life? If we only look at the Akashic, the galactic, the higher mind side of things, what about when doubt comes up? What happens when we get faced with challenging and growth pains on a day-to-day basis? So that was something that I was really I guess that was the driving force for me to continue learning and seeking, and not pigeonhole, go down just one rabbit hole and become the expert in that. And again, no shade on anyone who does that. It's just not my style, and it's taken a lot of inner work myself to really celebrate and really own that, to be able to have such a rich toolkit to support someone through their own self-discovery, self-empowerment journey.
I love that, because it's such a holistic approach that it allows the person to really relax into the moment and into where they need to be guided. Because when you are in a way trying to work on yourself, suddenly there's all of the things you realize you just don't know, all of the things you could be working on. Suddenly you're a self-help project. And it's so easy to get caught up in it and to, again, fall prey to productivity and optimizing. And that can also just further the trauma. You can intellectualize it all. Like you can look into psychology and into anagrams and into astrology and into like all of the things. And then suddenly you're like, oh my God, I have to try it all out. I have to do this thing. I have to do that thing. And suddenly it's just too much. It's overwhelming. It's not actually the point, because sometimes it's okay to just not deal with it all. Like you would be overwhelmed. And also maybe that's not even a point in your current iteration in your entire life, into like whatever you believe in. Maybe you just need to just be in a moment or feel like whatever it is. I like that you have all of these tools to really help the person where they are without just bulldozing them over. Like, no, we need to like dig up old wounds right now. And you're like, oh, I'm not ready. I just want to work on the money blocks. And then you maybe do that. And then you uncover other things that are, like I said, blocking, past lineage, stars, like whatever. It's all interconnected at the end of the day. And again, it's so individual too. So maybe you start with something, you fall in love with this tool, but then you just move on to something else, you get called to something else, and then you suddenly have like all of these different specialized coaches. And then again, so much to juggle, and they might also not really agree with. I love that you come with I guess also a little bit typical manifesto vibe, just completely disruptive, but also integrative, where it's like, let's just raise it all a bit down and look at what we have, and then just like refit the pieces and make it a new puzzle. Where it's just, looking at the pieces, but you come up from the overall perspective. I love that.
Definitely. And one analogy that I have been using with clients for over 7 or 8 years now has been, you've got your spice cabinet. You don't use 20 kilos of cinnamon every single day. You'll reach for the cinnamon, pinch here, pinch there. Some days you use salt, some days you use cardamom, some days you use the star anise, some days you use paprika. And the reason I'm so passionate about that is because over the years, I have also sought practitioners out who, they just do acupuncture, they just do yoga therapy. And then and having to see so many different practitioners and having to repeat myself over and over again of like, okay, this is my history. And then I would, have to explain everything to the acupuncturist. And then I go and see a different practitioner. And that really, again, such a manifestor thing to do. I got really angry, and I'm like, how many times do I have to repeat myself? How much do I actually have to relive what I'm working through 15 times if I'm seeing 15 different practitioners? And so that was like, surely there must be a better way. Let's solve this problem. And so I followed my curiosity and be able to build in a relatively short amount of time a wide range, like a really diverse range of practices or tools to be able to guide a client in a really integrative way, because sustainability is something that I'm really, really passionate about. I mean, prior to being in the holistic world, I was in the environmental management, environmental science world for 10 years. And that's, the degree that I studied initially straight out of school. And again, environmental management, sustainable development, that was something that I was very really drawn to back in the day in 2003, end of 2003. That was a pretty like quote unquote woo-woo, degree even. to study. Everyone was doing Bachelor of Science and Education and Business and, you know, nursing, et cetera, accounting, great degrees, great areas. We need everyone. But for me, it was so kind of left field. It was so, you know, we only had 36 people, you know, in the scheme of, you know, a world-class, graduated from University of Queensland, world-class, I think it's like the 13th or you know, it's the top, you know, the top 50 universities in the whole world, or maybe even top 20. Who even knows? I don't care. But, you know, it's a reputable university, and there were only 36 people. And out of the 36, only 9 of us graduated when I graduated. So it was, again, very left field area
Very
to study.
specialized too.
Very specialized in the jack of all trades
Love that.
way, rather than, you know, I'm a pharmacist, I'm a nurse, I'm a just one thing, you know. And so yeah, that approach really sung out to me. And I think what I do now, it's still, I teach people how to manage the environment, like manage environmental management and sustainable development. How can you develop without burning out your nervous system? And that's where all of my training, because I'm also a certified psychosomatic therapist, so I really work with the mind, the body, the soul, the spirit, the emotional, the mental, the physical. I'm missing one. Energetic. Yeah, so lots of different tools, and I just love them. You know, there is a place for everything, and of course I'm not trained in so many things, you know, and yeah, everything has its place. And to be able to reach for the tools, even like with astrology, I've done so many courses in astrology, done 2 courses in human design, and learning and curiosity is something that is so rich in my world. For anyone who this makes sense to, I'm a 5/1 emotional manifestor and a Gemini sun, Scorpio moon, Scorpio rising. So going to the deep, dark depths of transformation, and is part of how I live, part of my essence. And also through that, as a consequence, others get to experience a little bit of that when they come into my sphere.
I love that. You're just really applying like the macro to micro approach of sustainability, because, you know, like you have the whole environment, but then you have like different biotopes and how it interacts and all of that. But you applied it to even microware on the body, because we're all part of the system anyway. So if we're all sick in this society, which kind of likes us to be like that, which I always find hilarious, that people who are mentally sick as a response to being mistreated and being made to work against their nature are then seeking therapy, are then the broken ones, when a lot of people who just accept things as they are and just see me like emotional mediocrity and like feeling very mad or depressed about their life and not seeking therapy are the sane ones in society. It's just like turned upside down. It's ridiculous to me. So I love how you're like curing individually, but also like evoking change in that way, stemming from your own experience. And then how you just dive into the knowledge and become this whole source of wealth and wisdom that people can then tap into. It's just so like, impactful. Also some manifestor.
Yeah. Again, yes. Hashtag manifestor. Yeah. And, you know, like the more I came home to myself, even when I was working in a corporate arena, the more healing I did, the more I did my inner work. In many ways, I want to kind of debunk that. So basically, when I say the more I did the inner work, the more I could start to learn to trust my intuition. And I was and again, this is something that I have known since a young age, but didn't know how to trust it, and always, you know, just brushed it away and go, oh no, Jamie, don't be paranoid, don't be this, don't be that. But working in a corporate environment, you know, there were the alpha people, males. I worked in the mining engineering, construction industry. So there's it's a very developed, masculine developed space. And I would look at, how someone would be operating. I would look at, why do they exhibit bully tendencies and needing to, we call it, small man syndrome. And then there was tall poppy syndrome, welcome to Australia, tall poppy syndrome. And I saw a lot of the power imbalances within that, and have also received, being a victim of it as well. And the more I leaned into my intuition, the more I came home to myself, I was just like, I wonder if there's a connection with this person's eczema to their anger, to the inflammation in their body, to how they need to power over people and blame everybody else and not take full responsibility for their actions. And this person's a workaholic, but this person has three children and a wife. And I often, it's an open plan office. You can sometimes overhear arguments with when they're working till 8 p.m. And I was one of those people as well. And I'm just like, I wonder what's happening behind the scenes. I wonder what's beneath the facade of being the, managing director and the group director and all of those things. And so, yeah. And that final 12 months of me, before I exited that industry, I kind of became the counselor, like the unofficial counselor in the group, in the office. Like I had colleagues who would, take me out to coffee and then like tell me their problems with their wife or, or their partner. And I was also at that point, I already started studying like yoga. So I was, just doing like small group yoga classes I think it was every Wednesday lunchtime. And so that was a beautiful space for connection. And at one point it was like, I think I'm in the wrong career here. Everyone's telling me their health problems. I think there's something's amiss here. So yeah.
I love that. Just people being drawn to your energy when you're like really embodying something that you're specifically called to do, and you just accept it and let it unfold in whatever way without trying to control or make sense of it. That's when you get people's reaction, and it can be good or bad, but like it will be very much felt. And again, with like being manifested, that's a typical thing, right? You just automatically evoke a strong sense of something in people where they either just feel like magnetized, they come to you, like then suddenly tell you their life story, and you're like, who are you? What's going on?
Yes, I think I don't know if this is something. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. It happened to me too, and I just didn't like. I always said like I'm a creep weirdo magnet at that point. Like I when I didn't know what was going on and I didn't even know what boundaries were, I was just like get all of these random people to literally block my path and just want to get in my space and tell me their life story, or just randomly pops up next to me, tells me about abortion. What? Right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm like, yeah. Or then also be repelling to other people, and that's always such a weird word. I'm just like, am I literally pushing people away? No, because some people are just pissed off by your existence, and they just really feel weird about you. And some people don't know how to deal with that, and they will make it their mission to figure you out or show you your place or whatever. It's a lot of projection, and I have a lot of experience with that people, and I couldn't make head or tails of it because I was such a people pleaser. I was like, oh no, like maybe they don't like me, maybe I did something wrong. So I had to double down on being super nice and super accommodating. And then I almost felt like Cinderella would just like make up new things for me to like mess up. And then they would watch me and they're like, no, you didn't mess like up enough. I didn't expect you to succeed. And then I would just make up something new, the most ridiculous stuff. Like one of them was just so mad at me for being fast. I just flicked through. She was like, here's a boring ass folder, and you need to like like she pulled out all of the papers of the little plastic sheets. They were already sorted. She pulled them all out, just like sort them again. I was like, what? are you for real? And I did it. It's super fast because she was just like, oh, I have a deadline. It's important. I'm like, this is really not important. We just made that totally up. It's just like, nah. And so I have ADHD. This was like the most horrible thing you could do to me. All of the admin stuff, everybody knew it was, like, I didn't know it then, but like everybody kind of clocked it. And so she knew how to hit me. And so I was there like, how can I make this fun? And so like I sorted this alphabetical thing in like random parts. I would like start with A and I would do D and then I would do X and I would do like M and like just, and I would time myself and I would be like racing against the clock or whatever. Like it was just ridiculous. And I did it in the shortest amount of time that was not possible according to her. And then I went to her, I'm like, there you go. And she was like furious. She was like huffing and puffing. She's like, you couldn't have done it. Like you just made this up. And like I will like look through it and I will show you all of your mistakes and I will punish you. I'm like, you're not even my boss. Like, what are you gonna do? And then I was just standing there like watching her and she found no mistake. And then she was like, you must have cheated. I'm like, on what? This is like, I'm helping you. Like, this is not a competition. And then she was like, great. Now you have to do it with a different folder of like some year past nobody cared about at all ever. And she was like, you have to do it again, but you have to do it in an hour. You cannot do it faster. And I was like, what? And of course, that's when I made mistakes because I was bored out of my mind. I was like, because she would always walk by and she was like, you're too fast. You're like, not. I'm just like, what is this? This was the worst micromanaging ever. And she wasn't even remotely responsible for anything I did. I was like, who made you in charge of this stupid thing? And like, I had so many instances where like, I was like, what is going on? Like, why do people do this? And usually it's like very miserable people who have like some personal issues where I'm like, I can sympathize, but I'm also like, why am I punching back? Like, excuse me. I wish I had more of a backbone at that point. That's like something that Australia really like punched into me. It's like, you still haven't learned your lesson. Here's another horrible person. Boom. So
well, it's not so much. It's not so much even when here's another horrible person, but here is a opportunity for you to take responsibility for even putting yourself in that position. You probably even know already, like for the 40th time in that year, that you're playing small by even, asking for that opportunity. And I have so many experiences of that, where it's like, no, let's stay safe. No, let's, let's go by the book. Let's, let's behave. Let's, let's be someone's assistant. And if this makes any sense to anybody listening, I'm an Aries North Node, a Libra South Node. Libra South Node people, they make the best personal assistant, and that, but the South Node is where we've mastered in our past lives, in our previous incarnations. We know how to do it inside out. We can do it in our sleep. We can do it, dead. And the North Node is our spiritual shining star. And so my spiritual shining star is Aries. It's like, go be the warrior. Like, you're here to live the warrior, the hero's journey. What is your hero's journey? Breaking free of where, and I think up until this point, it's around taking responsibility, and rather than like blaming everybody else and pointing the finger out, but you point one finger out, you're pointing 3 fingers back in. Right. So just be really careful. Like, how have I orchestrated this for myself to learn it again? And then ultimately, of course, have compassion for everybody involved, but actually the toughest journey is to have compassion for myself, to go, oh, darling, I'm so sorry. Like, you just wanted to be safe. Yes, being someone's assistant, being the, invisible helper behind the curtains is very safe, right? Because you don't have to be responsible for what you create. You don't have to be responsible for the consequences, because if you're always someone else's, you're always someone invisible helper behind the curtain, you're not the front-facing person. You then don't have to, deal with the public rejection. You don't have to, you won't be seen, you won't be heard, you won't be misunderstood. That's my biggest one. Better to stay behind the scenes, better to follow the rules, because then, I can say, well, sorry, the Bible said this, sorry, the scripture said this, and, it's not my problem.
Right.
It said you must do this posture for 15 minutes. So do it for 15 minutes. Then it's like, where's the self-responsibility in that? Where is the self-responsibility in that? That's something that I'm currently questioning. Again, not throwing shade on anyone or anything, but that's the growth edge that I'm meeting with, which is really exciting. It scares me shitless, but that's when I know that, we are, we're hitting an edge, which is super exciting to experience and to overcome. Again, hero's journey.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, because it's just really in that moment when you face your demons and when you just take charge of your own destiny. Because sure, you can be like in the victim mindset, like everything happens to me, boo boo boo, but like you always really have a choice, even if it's very limited. There's still something where you can be like, I accept this, or I want to evoke some change, I want to stand up, or whatever it is. There is always a choice, even if you just associate. So it's a kind of choice, right? Like sometimes it's what you need, but especially if you want to consciously work on whatever you're stuck in, if you actually want to have something different, if you like have all of these big dreams and these visions and then you're just holding yourself back, it's the worst disservice. It's, at the end of the day, it's really not actually safe. It's actually not helping anybody. It's the same with what I learned with people pleasing. You think you just are palatable to everybody, you make people's lives easier by not disrupting anything, but they can't have a proper connection with you because they don't know you, because they don't even know you. So no real connection. Also, if they constantly violate your boundaries because they didn't know that you picked the people who don't care, then you're building the resentment, or just, again, raising unhappy people who are then just miserable to each other. And I don't know, there's nothing good about dimming your light. It just feels safe because our lizard brain, because society wants that. But it's just like the way when I was at my breaking point where I completely snapped and I moved to Australia and like showed everybody like the middle finger. I'm like, you didn't help me. Like I was like so depressed, and you were like, get a hobby, like literally that was this super great advice. And so I went to Australia, and just like when people asked me how it was, and I kind of felt they were safe, I don't know, I would just bawl my eyes out. Like two random strangers would like share my woes and my life stories where they were like holding space for me. And I never had that before. I was like, I'm still okay. I'm still enough. Like that was wild to me. And so that, like, I guess those people also attracted me, like my weird messiness. But that just goes to show that you can evoke change by just spicing things up, and it's uncomfortable, it's messy, and it affects other people, but they can help you. And I, in turn, then helped other people, and it's just like raising vibrations.
Yeah, and I want to also speak to the repetition, even if we repetitively create, imbalanced, disempowered situations. And I reflected on this really deeply through even like the country that I chose to get born into, the family that I got, the parents that I chose. And, while a good chunk of my life, probably about like 17, possibly even like 2/3 of my life, I played that victim card, poor me, why did I, deserve this? Why can't my parents be this, that, the other? And as young as 6 years old, I saw the dysfunctions, and being so intuitive. I've got Moon conjunct Pluto, again, for any astro nerds out there, Moon conjunct Pluto in the 12th house. I'm like a magnet for disempowerment. And until I found that out, I saw that as such a victim scenario. But I want to offer listeners a different perspective. From when I was 6 years old, I saw a lot of the dysfunctions. I saw a lot of the dishonesty that was happening within the family. I saw how people were hiding things and not wanting to speak about things. And I'm just like, can you not see, like, why? I did not understand. I'm like, why would you not be honest? Why are we hiding things? Why are you afraid? And like, I was so sensitive to all the subconscious, unconscious energies that was happening within even the household. And from as young as 6 years old, I'm currently 37. It's 31 years ago. That's a long time ago. I was, I remember this moment where I was just like fists clenched and like stomping my feet and internally said to myself, the buck stops here. The buck stops here. I am not repeating what they are doing.
Wow.
And that has then been my life motto. I had no idea I was a manifestor at 6 years old. I had no idea that I could trust myself at 6 years old, but that anger was sufficient to keep fueling me up until today, and will probably fuel me for the rest of my life, because every area that I find, every rabbit hole that I find myself, going down, I keep seeing all the areas of improvement. And even I need to mention this as well, even with working in the corporate area, that became my specialty. It's like quality assurance, go to Jamie. She's got, I think my last mentor that I still stay in touch with till today. And I left the corporate world 8 years ago now. Is that 8? No, 9, almost 9 years ago, in 2015. He called me Eagle Eye because nothing would pass my eyes. Like I would pick out every tiny detail and I would continually like push the envelope of like, no, we can do better. How can we improve on this? How can we become more efficient? But back to, that was a bit of a tangent, but what I really want to speak to is that we subconsciously, consciously, unconsciously create these pressure cooker chambers of, the seemingly quote unquote, disempowered family, or the disempowered relationship, or the disempowered, scenario, workplace, country, like whatever we choose, wherever we find ourselves. It's almost like it's a training ground. It's a training ground to build resiliency, to build a, I don't want to use this word, but that's the only analogy I have at this minute, of like we build a thicker skin to be able to withstand the pushback from society. Because as manifestors, like you said, you've mentioned the word repelling again. That's there's many thoughts around that word, because repelling feels very, very separate, very disconnected, very dismissive. That's the word. I don't like the dismissive nature of that word. But again, English language is so limited. So I just want to speak to that as well.
Let's just go with closed aura, because that's more neutral.
Yeah. It's it is necessarily protective, because for us, and again, it's beautiful to have the language and the system and the concepts of human design. It doesn't become the be all and end all manual of how we should live life, because then what have we just fallen into? We've just replaced, a cult with another cult. Like, it's like,
that's why I like that you do holistic, because anything can be excessive if you just make it your whole identity. It can help you exert yourself and figure out who you are. That's how I really resonate with human design, that I have suddenly a toolkit that so deeply resonates with what I found as a kid that I was talked out of, and that I can rediscover and reaffirm, and I feel solidarity in meeting like-minded people, like-minded stories, and there's words to experiences that I couldn't formally explain. And it also meets with the curiosity of, learning more about yourself, and how I can be trying new things, different things, especially more disruptive things that, you've tried it all and nothing seemed to work. So what now? Are you broken? No, just try a different thing. And then, human design is still pretty new. I think you've been in it like quite a while ago. Like I listened to your recent podcast episode, really good, which, you, how did you call it? You're like, you were so pumped about it, and like the thunderstorm, writing your description in it, like it was just so energetically loaded. And I just really loved how you also talked about the cultiness of how it
Mm-hmm.
can be taken for some people as being in the in crowd, and then there's all of the other people who don't know about it and they should. And that's what I found with when I got into, well, anything really, but specifically with human design, that I was just
Yeah.
suddenly being so overprotective. And like a lot of times when you discover something for yourself, suddenly like you're so in it, and then you are so, I don't know, intense, that again you just project onto other people. You just other them in that way that you kind of felt othered
Mm.
before, but now you have a different
Mm-hmm.
toolkit that they don't have. So you have like a new shiny
Yes.
weapon they can't combat, and you're like,
No.
but I want to
Yeah.
help you. And for me, usually it was, I want to save you. I can see your flaws. I can see your psychological problems. Like just being,
No.
armchair psychologist, horrible. But
No.
you can't push somebody to save
No.
them in whatever way that you deem. It's
Exactly.
not good. Like the intention was good, but the execution completely flawed.
Well, even the intention, it's like,
Yeah.
are we wanting to help someone and free them from suffering so we are more comfortable around them, right?
Yeah, good point.
Right? If this person, sees that they need to divorce their partner, and so then I want to force them to divorce their partner and show them how their partner is wrong for them, whose benefit is that for, really? Whose benefit is that for? Mine? Probably, because ultimately we're all selfish creatures. We all want to feel comfortable. We all want to feel at peace. And again, not just a manifestor thing. I'm sure everybody in the planet, every being, not just body, every blade of grass wants to experience, to be in a more peaceful environment than we currently have. So yeah, it's quite humbling and quite sobering to ask, but this would be so good for them. I just wish they would drink more green juice. It's like, okay, that's your projection. That's your thoughts. How about you take responsibility of that and see, and like look at the motivation of that, rather than, again, point the finger. You should do this. You need this. It's like, no, and I think I may have mentioned this when we've had our chat last week, our little meet and greet, that, for me, the pen is like, is my tool. And who am I to go out in the world and like preach the pen when actually somebody actually needs a tomato? It's up to, I've made it my personal, integrity to nurture my pen, but then to also support and create tools and resources to support others in finding their tomato or ginger or, a truck. Like, it's not up to me to tell them what they need. They already know what they need. And so I come with the tools and the angle to encourage them to lean further into themselves, to peel back all the layers, all the conditioning, that it's not safe to trust yourself, not safe to be in your body, not safe to connect with your heart, and for them to create their own experiences, to the quote unquote the thick skin to practice breaking free. And I think that's what I wanted to. That took me a really long time to, a lot of words to get to this point. It's like we need to practice. If you're going to run a marathon, you got to train every day. You got to start by running 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, until you get to however long a marathon is, 50 something kilometers. I don't know. Hands down, like, respect to anyone who can run like, longer than like 2 kilometers. That's my limit anyway. But you need to let the muscle stretch and then repair, stretch and then repair. And that's the angle that I really want to speak to and reiterate so passionately, because breaking through is something that we are not taught how to do. And it's not what our cellular structure, our DNA, our molecules, our cells in our bodies, it's not what we have. It's not an inbuilt thing. I mean, of course, survival of the fittest. We wouldn't be alive if our ancestors didn't survive, because, but we're continually as a species invited, given the opportunity to break free, for that muscle to tear just a little bit and then repair, tear just a little bit and repair. I mean, that's how you train for, weightlifting and marathons. The same thing. It's learning to stretch and grow and be able to sustain. Here's the sustainability again. How do we sustain? How do we maintain that edge and not be completely annihilated because of it? And again, even the annihilation, the death part of ego, identity, of, all structures is also a really crucial part that doesn't get spoken to in the world wide web of wellness and holistic and spirituality. And it's always summer, it's always sunshine bright. It's like actually winter also exists. Actually nighttime also exists. Actually, like death exists, to want to have it summer all the time, daytime all the time, happy all the time, rainbows and unicorns all the time. What kind of lies are we actually feeding the future generations? And even it's not about the future generations, what kind of lies are we trying to convince ourselves of? That is something that I'm also very passionate about, not to be pessimistic, but to be realistic. Again, comes back to integrity, comes back to honesty. How honest are we? If we dismiss any part of ourselves, if we dismiss any other modalities, if we dismiss any experience, that's how separation happens. I mean, that's how, the divide and conquer, that's how war happens, because then, we're playing the I'm better than you, let me show you this. And then I'm just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That and we cannot, again, this is a personal view, like challenge me all you want. But if we keep reinforcing that dismissive nature within ourselves, how are we ever going to even touch peace on a greater level? If we keep dismissing and shutting down parts within our bodies, I don't see how that could actually transfer to, a greater ecological, environmental transformation, because, the micro, as is the macro, as is the micro. If how we do one thing is how we do everything. And so if we keep dismissing death and challenge and tragedy within ourselves, how are we ever going to accept that on a world stage?
Right.
That's mind-boggling to me. And that was something that I saw so deeply when I worked with like lawyers and environmental legislation and, all of this, on a earthly, very physical level. And I'm like, I don't think this is the answer. I don't think, creating legislation and policies, yes, it helps, definitely, not to dismiss anything, but I'm just like, I don't think the trees need us to manage them. The animals are fine. The animals have been there long before we arrived. We are the problems. The humans are the one that actually need the management, not the environment.
Yes.
Right?
Right. I mean, we're just a blip in the entire history.
Exactly. It's like, I don't think the environment actually needs managing. I think the human needs managing. And I saw that from a macro scale. I saw that from a micro scale. I looked at my work colleagues and I loved them and they were beautiful. And they are beautiful. Everybody's beautiful. But I'm just like, I think the problem here in order to create sustainable change on an environmental perspective, people's got to deal with their own stuff. We need that's where the focus is. I'm like, I've missed the point. And I think that, and over the last 8 years through, studying and immersing myself in, Australian bush flower remedies, aromatherapy, all of these, abundant tools, body work, the Akashic records, all of the above. I mean, if you want to learn more, like go to my website, but through learning all of that, I'm just like, see where it's so easy to miss the point, see where it's so easy for us to lose ourselves, because that's all we ever have known. Lose yourself, don't take responsibility, hand the responsibility over to somebody else. And then it's like, hold on, this is how we've and maybe this is part of the greater, if we want to look at, like, zoom right out to like the ice age, maybe this is part of the decline, because with every, they have, how many ice ages have we had? 2, 3, I don't know. But yeah, so, maybe we are actually part of the decline here, and there is a place for that, and to resist the decomposition, to resist the death, to resist the ending in any macro or micro scale, is again West integrity in that.
Yeah, it's hard, but I like to add, like, say, like, people need managing, true. But I think we do because we like to think we are managing humans. Like, it just, if you look at history, there's all of these different societies and rules. Like, I especially am always baffled by, I guess, like, the Baroque and Renaissance time, when they were like, humans are animals, we need to get I don't know, like, there was some quote, I don't know it anymore, but like, we need to not have humans in animal, you need to get the animal out of the humans. We need to, like, optimize and make the perfect logical person who controls all of the urges, all of the instincts, have this perfectly ethereal, knowledgeable, logic person. And I feel like that was a huge incision that still to this day lasts. I mean, we had industrialization where we still have a kind of similar schooling system where we just almost indoctrinate people, make them into little square boxes, make them, like, behave in school, sit perfectly still, like, consume information. We don't teach people how to manage their emotions, how to have good financial hygiene, how to have good interpersonal relations. We don't teach people how to live, which is completely. And then you can go and do your own little self-help project, whatever, and then people make money off of that. Like, it's just, everything is optimized to a degree where everything is just so split. Like, we don't have third places anymore, really. We have all of these kind of fractured social interactions. We don't live in these little hubs anymore, like, when they say, yeah, it takes a village to raise a kid. Like, where's the village? Like, it's not there. So it's all highly individualized, and there's so much that has led up to this point. And like, it's a whole different, I don't know, you can write whole essays and lectures and all of that.
Oh my God, thesis. Like, yeah, exactly.
There's all of these very literate, very academic people who already do that. So, but yeah, just like, as an overall, like, we are over managing ourselves, but not actually checking in with us, like, being in the moment. What do I need? What are the emotions? And like you said, every emotion should be accepted. Like, it doesn't mean that you should act out on it or blame it on the people. But
exactly,
circling back to the theme of anger you kind of touched upon, which is also very much like a theme, a not self theme of Manifestors. I have had so many thoughts around, like, do I have anger issues my entire life? But I've never, like, acted really on it. Like, people, I don't know if I never talked about it with anybody because I was afraid to, get repercussions and shame and all of that. So I've always been very peaceful and just, like, internalized it and wielded it against me, like this raging storm of being frustrated about unfairness, about how I can't just assert myself, all of, when people cross my boundaries and I can't read my thoughts and they don't do me the favors that I've done a lot, like, just all of the things that I did to people please and kind of manipulate to situations to feel in control. And then just, double down on me, because yes, little girls can't be angry, and then little kids just generally shouldn't be showing all of these big emotions. And sure, we have gentle parenting now, but I feel like a lot of times that's also overextended. In the end of the day, it's just, we are not equipped fully to just let people be, but also, like, set the boundary where, like, yes, you can, like, have your emotions and stuff like that, you can deal with it, but just, you can't just lash out on me, you can't hit me, you can, like, do all of these things. We're so easily triggered ourselves because of the generational trauma and the way we were raised. All of that is so pervasive. But just emotions, just have the emotions and be okay. And anger particularly, for me, I think we talked about this too, is a really nice driving force. Like, when I have relived all of these lessons, where I'm like, I think I got the lesson, why do you keep doing this to me? Until I reached the point where I was just the pot boiling over. It was like, I've reached the breaking point, and I lash out. Like, I'm just gonna, like, change the thing. I'm like, uproot this thing. I'm like rid myself of this relationship, this person, this place, this whatever. Maybe that's something you needed to do, but maybe not.
Absolutely.
So I've learned when I reach like this kind of moment where I can see the boiling point and the horizon, I'm like, stop. Like this is really, I need to sort things out. This is not healthy for
Yes.
anybody. I can
Yes.
be very explosive when it does happen, very seldom, but when it does, I'm like, whoa, who is this
Yeah.
demon?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And I
Been
still
there.
feel like I've been pretty contained. I've always been like almost out of body experience. I'm like still holding some kind of bowl over it. Like you haven't seen the worst.
Yeah.
But I've met another person who didn't have any self-regulation. I was like, damn, like they were pissed off over nothing. Because I didn't want to do the free social media managing. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And they went mental in voice, like they verbally abused me, left me angry voice notes. I'm like, who is this person? I thought we were friends, and then just cut them off. It's like, no. But yeah, so it's wild. Just anger can be good to facilitate your move, but
Yes.
use it before it abuses you.
Exactly. And I love that you mentioned the word containment, because it's something, again, that, and I'm gonna use the sexual reference, like everybody, like, it's all about like ejaculation. It's all, like there's so much emphasis and so much celebration around ejaculating, right? And metaphorically speaking as well, there's a bushflower essence for that. Like, being able to sit with intensity, whether it's anger, whether it's excitement, whether it's passion, and there is such a tendency to want to like spit it out straight away, share it, launch it, do it, just do it, go.
Yeah, it's
and
uncomfortable
like,
so much, and you just want to.
It's like, I don't know how to hold this, so let's discharge it. And there is a time and place for everything. I'm not dismissing. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but what I'm really working on within myself is, how do we contain it? How do we contain it and not lose the charge of creativity, and being, again, like, very intuitive, receive lots of information, channeling, downloads, whatever terminology you want to use, whatever resonates with you. It's like when we get these like ideas to create something, it's so easy. I've always watched in the past, I've always gone like, right, I'm going to create the website today. I'm going to, launch the thing today. And then wonder, why doesn't it last? Why is it, kind of like touch and go? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to actually use all the tools that I have, use the breath work, use the Kundalini yoga, be able to regulate my breath. And through that practice, that it's inevitable that it's transferable to creation. And so I'm not just trigger launching XYZ and then wonder why they all, they don't last the distance. And so it's like, how do we actually contain it? And when I use the word containment, I don't mean control, don't mean suppress, don't mean repress, right? And I think that is something, there's an edge here, and I'm working on 2 projects. I won't speak to it just yet, but if you are curious, jump on the train and watch this space. I don't even know when this conversation is going to get aired, but it's something that I'm really, really deeply dedicated and committed to building, cultivating spaces to actually speak to this particular thing around containment, around being able to have the broad and deep awareness of what's actually happening, and not just be triggered. Like, like, it's so easy, right? Like, an example of discharging of energy is like, blame the person. Oh, she's toxic. Oh, that's bad. Oh, like that. I mean, like, even in just me saying that, like, your heart rate goes up, and then everybody's like already in a, the glutes. And I know I work with this, like, for years, like kilometers of massages and body work, glutes, feet. That's the first place I work with people when they are literally naked on the massage table. I get into their feet. I get into their glutes. I get them in their bodies that way first. because there's all of this talk that we can do, right? But I'm just like, I don't care. You might be a human design expert, great for you, but let's get in your feet and actually see how grounded you are in your body. Let's see where the blockages are. And I could spend months working on someone's feet, their calves, their thighs, their outer thighs, their glutes. So it's so important. It's so important to be able to have that connection, because otherwise we're only working on the upper half. We're only working on the launching. We're only working on, the just do it, the and I'm just like, no. I want to reframe, learning to let it drip all the way down back into the earth. And again, it's such a, even in yoga postures, especially, I love yin yoga so much. I taught it for so many years, because it trains you to be in that less comfortable place. When you know you want to run, when you know you want to like spit poison, when you know you want to just press send on that text message just to alleviate your discomfort, right? You just want to tell that person to stop smoking. You need to stop this. You need to see a therapist. You need to drink the green juice. You need to stop drinking the green juice. You need to meditate. Like all of those things, those are examples of discharging. You're discharging your discomfort because you don't know, you haven't got the presence and the awareness and the space within your body, let alone your mind, let alone your heart, to actually face to actually know, oh, I'm actually uncomfortable because, and I'm getting angry, and I'm letting that anger mask the discomfort. And what's a discomfort? It's a fear that, that we have, a fear mechanism that we have, I guess, buried within ourselves, because I'm scared to feel this person's loneliness. So I'm going to get angry with them. I'm going to tell them, all the 5,000 things they need to do every morning to deal with their loneliness, so that I don't have to feel the discomfort within myself. Right. Because someone else is lonely. Because I don't want to, that's too much emotion to access. I don't want to feel that. So I'm going to get angry. And I'm like, oh my God, I do that. Yeah, I do that. Yep, I do that. And I can see, I can see how everyone, it's so natural. And I'm, again, not pointing the finger whatsoever.
I really, advice giving when you're just supposed to listen.
Well, it's listen to yourself. It's not necessarily listen to the other person. Listen to yourself, your body, every bit of information, everything that is happening. It's not happening to us. It's not even happening, for us. It's happening as us. If there's a lot of inflammation happening in our bodies, if there's a lot of inflammation and conflict happening in our lives, it's happening as us, because ultimately our inside and outside, they're just like perfect mirrors. And that's something that I'm also really passionate about, in terms of like, learn to read what life is trying to tell you right now. You could be walking around the block for 5 minutes, and not that we need to go out there, control and looking and like becoming a detective. It's like, what's happening right now? There is already an education happening here. It doesn't need to be that complicated. Our minds think it's really complicated. We need, we need a PhD in this and we need that and this, scientifically proven. I'm just like, all of that is to satisfy what? Who is this actually satisfying? Who is this actually convincing? So yeah, it's like, it's quite humbling. It's quite uncomfortable to see, right? To go like, who is this person? Who is the one requiring, all of this explanation? Who is the one who needs the 80-page report on themselves to convince them that it's actually safe to be you, that you actually belong, that yes, you can, and yes, you're allowed. That I want to give that as a food for thought, because when we can look at it, or at least when I saw that from that angle, I just went, wow, we are such complicated creatures.
We are, because we think
we are like, we have men have, since the dawn of time, created books and theses and courses and institutes about, like, the planet Jupiter, for example. was like, Jupiter exists as Jupiter. The sun is the sun. The earth is the, like.
Yeah, you can make theories about the sun rotating the earth and stuff like, but it doesn't care.
The sun doesn't care. The sun doesn't care. Jupiter doesn't care. That Jupiter doesn't require books written about it. It's like, and how can we hold both? Because I went through, when I had that aha moment in 2020, I was like, what's the point? There's no point in anything, because everything is here to feed the mind.
How tiny
and
we
I'm
are.
like, what's the point? What is the point? And then until I was like, there is the point is continually asking what is the point, and let that overpower me isn't helping me. It's making me feel awful, guilt, regret, shame, embarrassment, disbelief. And I'm like, how can we hold both? How can we hold both? Just because what is the point on one hand I cannot let that stop creative expression. I cannot let that stop myself from creating and for, sharing what I'm passionate about. Just like, I'm sure many books, many novels have been written about, a main character with the main character named John. Doesn't mean anybody should, dismiss that within themselves. If they are, drawn to write a novel with a main character named John, go ahead. Who are you not to? So yeah, I just want to also give voice to that, because I fell in that trap, and maybe you don't need to.
Yeah, it's such a constant learning experience. I guess at the end of the day, the purpose is just like, you're given life, just live, and there's no manual. You just take each moment as you are, and that's where it comes back to embodiment, where you're just like, oh, I'm having an emotion. I just gonna let it wash through me without questioning it. It just is there. Maybe somebody triggered it, but I can't project my story onto them. I can't tell them how, like, I'm just like little kids. They get mad for a minute and they have a little tantrum, and then it's gone, and then they're happy again.
Exactly. Yes.
We can make things so much easier without putting so much explanation and thought and structure behind things, when we also know there's a ton of different cultures and upbringings, and then there's different brains, and we have the current very big discourse about neurodivergency. I have ADHD, and it opened up so much more self-compassion towards myself, where I was like, I was always misunderstood in so many ways and got all of these labels, and then try to identify with it and try to fix myself, in quotation marks, when I could have just been like, okay, sometimes I run into a door because I didn't realize my foot was there. Like, sometimes I'm time blind. Sometimes I just get so much done in 10 minutes, and then I get nothing done in 10 months. Like, it makes no sense. And I can berate myself, or I can just be like, today is a no energy day. It's like, it's fact, no judgment, no emotion. It's just like, the sun's out. Okay. Like, I have no energy today. Okay. Then you can be like, can I do something about it? Do I want to do something about it? And just giving people grace. And then it starts with you. Like, for me, when I realized how I talked to myself, the words I used, how sharp they cut, and I was like, who am I to self-mutilate myself emotionally? I was shocked. Like, I would have never talked to anybody the way I talked to it. Even like my worst bullies never went that low. I was like, damn, that's the monologue a lot of people have about themselves. No wonder we're like all messed up somewhere.
And I love that you touch on that. Like, it's so easy to use anything to weaponize ourselves, to bully ourselves, to attack ourselves, and it's so debilitating. I am my worst critic. We are, I dare say, we are all our worst critic, and we are so harsh on ourselves. And it's takes maturity, and it takes awareness to recognize when we're doing that, and then to question. It's like, who's the bully here? Like, who are you? And like, speak directly to it and go, who are you? Who are you?
Why?
Who are
and
you?
sometimes it's just really self-protection, and you're like, that makes absolutely no sense. You're just making a worse. You're just creating a problem out
Exactly.
of nowhere and making me
Yeah.
afraid of people and disrupting my relationship with myself, with other people, out of fear. And again, it's just the fear. And then if you were to sit with the fear and be like, okay, let's have the chat, like what you're afraid of, people like would hate you and isolate you and like shun you, like you're alone on the street and homeless, and you're like, there's this beautiful book, oh my gosh,
Mm-mm.
I can't remember, about depression. Oh shit, it's so good. But basically there was this exercise where you go like, all right, so you have a terrible thought, and then just ask
Mm,
like why. So like,
mm,
and why, like just like keep
mhm.
asking, like, so what's the next thing that can happen, like, okay, so like you gotta, if you did this thing, then like your boss would hate you. Okay, so what happens then? Well, he might fire you.
Yes.
Okay, what happens then you lose your
Yeah.
mortgage. Okay, what happens? And then you just like spin it into the most ridiculous notions, because we do that anyway, so let's just go with it.
Yes.
If you
Yes.
can spin it into the best case scenario out of fun, because we have the capacity. If we go bad, we can also go high,
Mhm.
but that feels weirder.
Mhm.
So like, let's just go
Mhm.
as low as you can. And you're like, yeah, maybe I stick
Mhm.
with the earthworms, and then maybe I see the stars at night, and then maybe I have friends I can couch surf with, and I'm like, maybe I can like Trump, like maybe I, and then you
Yeah.
just have a whole scenario that is equally ridiculous, but also kind of exciting, and not that I'm like making light of like all of these issues, but it just
No.
shows you that none of that you have any control over. If your boss wants to fire you, they can. But
Yes.
also you have probably support system. Maybe you also have like employment laws. Maybe
Exactly.
there's always something. What I've learned
Yes.
again with Australia, I was put on the street. I was like put in terrible working conditions. I was like abandoned in the outback and stuff. And every single time I thought like, this is the worst. This is the lowest. Like, this is ridiculous. I was like,
Mm.
yeah, I'm gonna like do something about it, and like mustered all of my anger and
Mm.
like wiped my tears. Like I was just like,
Yeah.
fix it. And it worked out. Always
Yeah.
somebody would just magically appear. Like almost felt like, a video game. They just spawned a perfect helper who would then just take me in their car and drive me all around town to like go to that place I needed to go, or like they would help me with their business when I had no idea I needed this thing. They were like, yeah, I'm
Mm.
just like here to send you, give you the side quest, and then you know like it was wild when I was just like, I'm done, like I need this to work out. I just something come up, like give me something. This is the worst, ridiculous, like always having like this weird temper tantrum with the universe. I'm like, you're being unreasonable. This is beyond
Mm.
ridiculous. Where you get out
Mm.
of your little pity party and you go like,
Yeah.
no, enough. Like this is not my story. Like I need this. This was good for the plot, but I need a
Yeah.
change.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. Like it's again, like when I go back to that question that I asked, like, who is the one who needs, books upon courses about, the planets? And it's like the planets don't care. It's the human mind that cares,
Yeah.
right? And it's the human mind that then again, we need the human mind, best thing on the planet, but then also in its it can also be detrimental to us, right? It wants to create a story, it wants to create the narrative, and I'm going to add that sometimes, often, we create it we 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 create the narrative to shift the emotion. We create the narrative of like, nobody loves me, right? Just words. I could be saying lavender green grass, right? Lavender green grass,
Yeah.
nobody loves me. Like, these just words. But then
Right. Or you can insult
depending
me
on
in a
the
different
words,
language.
exactly, and it actually draws out the emotion, and that emotion is the undercover magnet that draws that particular sequence of words. And maybe lavender green grass means something really, really, touches someone in a really big way, but nobody loves me. It will bring up the emotion, and then we move that emotion, and then we're like, oh, we have space now. And again, doesn't matter whether it's lavender green grass, whether it's coffee, whether it's a marathon, a run, a walk, or just saying out loud, nobody loves me. And not because we want to manifest that or create that or like have any kind of like wonky energetics with it. It's like, nobody loves me. It's just 3 words: nobody loves me.
And you just give meaning to it, and then you repeat it, and then again, like you said, the internal and the external just mirror that back to you. Like we could have the
Exactly.
exact same experience. Like we could go for a walk around the block, like you said, and go get coffee, and then the person behind the counter is just not smiling, and then I would maybe go like, oh my gosh, like they don't like me, like oh my god, like,
Nobody loves me.
Yeah, and then I would have all of these stories, and he was just, I don't know, daydreaming, thinking about like his dog. Like who knows? I don't know.
No,
But and you could be having the best day. Like it's the same experience but different. So even if you think like the outside actually doesn't work like a video game where it would just specifically be for you, and then everybody's an NPC, like that's also a weird meme going around. But yeah, it's really just confirmation bias in some way. You know.
Yeah, no, that's not exactly what I meant. I meant that sometimes the narrative, like, you know, if we were to like shut down and dismiss all narratives, that I'm giving voice to sometimes the narrative, for example, nobody loves me, is just the catalyst we need to shift the emotion.
Yeah.
We just need to let ourselves feel, what does it feel like? What emotion arises? And to release that charge, because and whether it's nobody loves me or, you know, lavender green grass, whatever the string of words is for you, is going to be different for everyone. Someone else could be, you know, I'm a failure. Someone else could be something. It, like, let's use that as a catalyst to shift what needs to be shifted within our bodies, and let that emotion express, you know, and not be in the way of shifting that emotion. And it doesn't have to be, you know, emotion, sadness, guilt. Like we don't have to know it. We don't have to label it, because emotion is just energy in motion. Our blood, if you are alive, if you're listening to this right now, you are alive, your blood is pumping, like blood is continually moving inside your body. And so the same thing with emotion, the same thing with nutrients. Like, you know, our eyeball is continually, you know, recreating itself. Our liver is continually recreating itself, right? Like everything is always in motion. And so to just not get in the way of that, because when we do get in the way of that, or we shouldn't, and we this and we that, and then we, you know, there's so much blockages that we can create within our actual physicality. I'm not a medical doctor, but it's like, when you think about it, if our veins, our energetic veins within ourselves, our psychic, you know, like if we keep putting boulders in its place, it's like if a waterfall, we think about, you know, just going to zoom out to a landscape, you know, talk environment for a second. A waterfall is pouring. It wants to like flow downstream, wants to get the water, wants to get to the ocean, and we keep damming it. We build a dam, we put boulders, and then water is inherently, you cannot, it doesn't want to be contained. It just wants to flow, right? It wants to flow. So the more boulders you put in your body, in your cells, you're going to force the cellular structure, like just like the cellular structure of a creek, it has to get creative. It's going to have to flow around the boulder, and then it's going to, you know, create a new pattern of the riverbanks. You put a boulder in the middle to block the water, it's going to have to get creative, right? And you think about it, like how is cancer formed? It's a series, it's a conglomerate of overly mutated cells. So if we put a blockage within our psyche, in our emotional body, in our physical body, if we put a blockage around that, we put like a tourniquet around it, then we, you know, we are inherently forcing our energy, whether it's a physical blood vessels or not, we're forcing our energy to get creative. We are catalyzing the mutation of cells, and then we wonder why cancer is such a big thing. You know what I mean? Like it's because that's an overproduction of mutated cells. And so we can see where we are blocking the natural flow of energy. And this might be a bit far out, but I'm just going to go there anyway. Why not? I have this, anyway, it's called word lexicography, using the alphabets of a word to create that represents the emotion and the essence of the word. So for example, like keep it simple, stupid doesn't actually, you know, KISS doesn't actually embody the emotion and the essence of kiss. It's just, you know, KISS, you know, keep it simple, stupid. But you know, this, I guess it channeled through me like self SELF, spirit encouraged life force. When you are operating from that place of self, when it's spirit encouraged life force, the ego is not in the way. I'm going to do this so I get, the ego is the one that wants to like do a cost benefit analysis. There's a place and time for it, right? And so ego, EGO, essence getting obstructed. It's like when the life force wants to move through you and nothing in the world would stop you from wanting to, I don't know, maybe you want to do a degree in accounting. Great, go for it. Go for it. Don't let your essence get obstructed. Oh, my mom said I should be a doctor instead, or like, accounting has no history, and like all of that is like, how can we actually release these obstructions of our ego getting caught? Because when our ego is getting in it is obstructing, our essence is getting obstructed, and then spirit cannot, it has to then mutate. It has to get really creative. It has to, so yes, self, ego. Create a whole course on this.
But it also manifests as different, it doesn't have to be
exactly
like for me, when I was so repressed and felt so weird about, all the ADHD symptoms I didn't know that I had. Growing up, I had so many problems with my bowel. Like I had very almost like irritable bowel syndrome. I had so much problem with that. And then during like my adulthood, it shifted more towards my jaw, where it became so ridiculously tight and clenched that I had so many medical issues. At one point, like my jaw actually popped out of the socket, and like all of the doctors were always puzzled by my problems, and they wanted to make case studies on them, like all the students, and I studied this weird human, and I'm like, yeah, what? Couldn't even open my mouth properly because I was just so tense from holding back so much of my speech. And then when I tried to speak more, suddenly I would get like this random throat infection and I would not be able to speak. Like it was always just some physical manifestation of some anxiety that I didn't address. And like you said, I could just voice it out loud. Like sometimes it's just like, okay, yes, maybe I feel unworthy, instead of being toxic positivity and being like, no, let's not think about this. Like, you're beautiful, like aggressively putting stuff on top when it's just still there, manifesting, holding, or like infesting. You could be like, okay, I'm gonna go to my friend. I'm like, I think you're mad at me. I feel like you don't actually like me. Like you just, I don't know. Like, that's like a bit extreme, but like talk about it. You're just like, oh my gosh, like that barrister like probably hates me. And then somebody tells you like, actually, that's a story you tell yourself. And instead of being like, no, that's like, you're dismissing, like, again, just sit with yourself and just work it out and just voice it out and be like, actually, when I say it out loud, this sounds ridiculous. And then maybe like the kid, you just shook it off. You're like, oh, I had that thought. I put it out there and it's gone, that thought. Like maybe it was true, maybe it wasn't, but it's just like, I'm just gonna go play, like that. If we did that more and in the moment really embody, we could be so much more healthy, I feel. Like, yes, we might be ridiculous to other people, but then again, that's not a me problem, how you see it. As long as I'm not hurting people and being like, awful. Embody yourself. Look at what's going on. Don't overthink it, because that's usually my weapon of choice, where I'm like, oh, I need to dissect this. Like, where does this come from? Which like wound do I need to heal now? Like, what is this? What is this? But like, where is it placed in my body? Like, is it sadness? Is it like depression? Like, is it grief? Like, what is it? It could be a lot of different things. But right now, maybe I should just sit in it and be like feeling this weird, murky feeling, like whatever. Okay, and then I'll just look at the watch. I'm like, don't look at the watch. Like, let's just let it be. Right?
Yeah, again, it comes back. Again, it's so like simple. It comes back to the breath. And also then asking, what is the emotion? Like, we're creating a lot of activity, right? Nothing wrong with activity, but just be able to like step aside and watch it and go like, wow, I'm creating all of this narrative. I'm creating all of this activity. What is the emotion I'm actually avoiding?
Yeah.
And answer that question truthfully. Take as much space as you need, have a nap, and then come back and answer that question. It's like, what's the emotion I'm avoiding? Oh, it's shame. Okay. Say it out loud. I feel shame. Maybe tears will come. Maybe there will be a bodily sensation, and it'd be like, I feel shame. Okay, it's just a feeling. Feeling comes and goes, right? It's energy is just moving through. It's just like, oh, look, okay, I think it's going to rain now. Okay, what about it? And I think before you also mentioned, like, from that book with regard to depression, it's like, so what? That's just 2 words. So what? It's like, okay, oh, because, then I will, I'm going to die. Like, okay, so what? So what about that? And use that as a flushing. It's like a toilet cleaner.
Right.
It cleans the toilet, right? Because
It takes away
it's
the
a purging
power.
process. Yeah, it's like, okay, the person doesn't like me. So what?
Yeah.
I'm still okay.
And you
I
can
get
be
thrown out on the
disappointed
street.
about that.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So it's like, so what? And then keep asking, so what? And yeah, and I think that's why it's so important. And I tell this to clients and students all the time, like, it's so important to have, to create space for the process to run its course through you, create the space, trust the process, and to have a, regular, I'm not going to say it needs to be daily, a regular self-reflection practice, even if it means, having a session, like a one-on-one session once a fortnight, once a month, or once a week, or, whatever you need to be able to give voice to clean the toilet, to let it all flush. I personally meditate most days. And I love Kundalini meditation. I love the dynamism of it. I love how it touches on the subconscious, how it clears your auric field, how it works on all of your 10 bodies, not just the physical body, not just the mental, emotional. It works on all 10 bodies. That's a whole workshop in and of itself. And that really works for me because there's so much dynamism with it, and it also works so deeply with the breath, and that works for me. Maybe it worked for you too. And I love doing my journaling every morning. I mean, I've been journaling since I was 10 years old. That's that's like how many years ago? 27 years ago. That's a long time, before I even knew what yoga was, before I, like, dear diary, like 10 years old. Bless my auntie. She gave me I was obviously still living in Singapore. She actually bought a lockable, beautiful diary. When I was 10 years old, from Australia. Surprise. Had no idea that I was going to migrate here. But yeah, I've been writing since I was 10 years old. Obviously there's different pockets where life gets busy, but it doesn't hurt. A self-reflective awareness practice, whatever way, shape, or form that evolves through life, is crucial. It's crucial because it actually is very energy efficient when you start to look at, where am I responsible for what I'm experiencing right now, and having that regular safe space to ask the uncomfortable questions, to feel the uncomfortable emotions, to ask, what am I resisting and what am I actually avoiding here? What's the emotion I'm avoiding? It's I don't know. I don't know if there's any other more efficient practice, because if we are aware of it and we let it move through us in a safe space, then there's less likelihood to go out there and create all kinds of bigger conflict, on a far wider scale, when sometimes have irreparable consequences,
right,
or
when it
irreversible
boils over.
consequences.
Yeah, like you just remove the friction.
Exactly.
Let it
let's deal with it. Exactly.
And I've said this, like, to get back to your river course metaphor, or like, instead of damming it and making it a whole thing that could then break and then flood entire areas, you could be like, just like let it run down into the ocean, maybe trim the beds every
like
let it be.
Like, let's remove the pebble rather than like let it build into this ginormous event. And it's, again, like, I remember working with clients like super early on when I first started my practitioner journey in 2016, especially male clients too. It's like, why did this happen? And they're very naturally very defensive towards like, I didn't see this coming, this person, that person, this partner, that partner, suddenly just ask for a divorce, and et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just like, okay, let's just pause for a second. Let's backtrack. where did you avoid the mosquito bites? Where, how long have you been avoiding the mosquito bites? And then how dramatic did it need to become until your whole house gets burnt down? And then you'd be like, nobody told me. I'm like, I'm pretty sure the mosquitoes told you. Like, mosquito bites, it's annoying, but like, it's just like, all right, just brush it over, right? Goes away in a couple of hours, or most couple of days, if you have a allergic reaction to mosquito bites. But then it's just like, address it when it's just a mosquito bite, rather than when the whole house burns down and there's an earthquake and there's a thunderstorm and there's a volcano eruption like that. That's when a high likelihood of irreparable consequence, and also be able to hold both. There is a time and space for everything. Everything is always in motion, and there's no one right way. But yeah, self-awareness practice, self-reflective practice never hurt anyone, and it enriches your life rather than be some kind of another weapon to use against yourself.
Exactly. And again, like, if you have uncomfortable feelings, it's just a feeling. It's going to go through, but it will come through anyway. Even if you push it down, it will come back up. So might as well just rip the plaster off, or like
yeah, let's feel it. Let's feel the shame. Let's feel the whatever the thing is, let's feel it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. This has been a wild journey. I love this. I love all of it so much. Totally agree. And are there any points you feel like we haven't touched upon, or you want to summarize and really bring home?
I think we have covered a lot. I feel like I want to end on the note. Again, it's a word lexicography. For love, LOVE, let other versions exist.
Mm-hmm.
And when we let other versions exist, we also let our version exist, and both can exist at the same time, because that's the highest form of love. That's unconditional love. I let your version exist, and I can also let my version exist, and imagine a world where more people practice that and integrate that into their daily lives, hour by hour, day by day, when we can let all versions exist and not need to dismiss and reject and power over and be better than, it kind of just dissolves all of that, because it's just like, okay, that's great. You see green, I see purple. No one's right and no one's wrong. Let's move on. What's for lunch?
Right. I love that. And it just,
I want to leave with that. I want to end this conversation. We could talk for another 5 hours, but
yes.
But yeah, I want to end this on that, to let our version exist and let other versions exist, and take this into your daily life, hour by hour. The person that challenges you, the person that loves you, let other versions exist and let our version exist.
Exactly.
Yes.
Just every moment. That statement is true of your past self, of how people see you, of how you see, like, any moment. It's just acceptance, really.
Exactly. It's just, it's like all versions exist, and I could go on and on and on, but like, let older versions expire. That's love too. Mm-hmm. Let older versions expire.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, no more words. That's it. Mic drop.
Amazing.
Okay. Where can people find you and like hear more of your wisdom, or like work with you?
I have my own podcast called Arriving Here, so you can find that on iTunes and on Spotify. On my Instagram, I'm most active on Instagram, so at Jamie Shūjūn, JamiesHūjun. I'm sure all of this will be linked in the show notes, and also on my website for how we can work together if you feel drawn and inspired to, work one-on-one or receive a reading and, join a class, and all the other things that I'm working on behind the scenes, soon to launch, tools and resources, safe spaces to feel your emotions, to remember who you are. And that's the foundation of my work. I want to guide you to return to your very nature, transform from within, refine your direction, and remember who you are. And that really drives, it's the roots, it's the ground from all of my offerings and all of my work. So jamieshūjūn.com. But yeah, if this touches you in any way, I'm curious to hear how this conversation has moved you. So definitely send me a DM on Instagram. I would love to connect.
Awesome. Everybody go do that.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Annemarie. Thanks so much for offering the space and, for us to meet and to share, conversations like ours. It's such an honor to meet you and to be, to have my voice be shared and be heard. It means the world. It means a lot. And, I want to really cheer you on. On your journey as well, in sharing your voice and really sharing who you are. It's very inspiring.
You inspire me too. It was such a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, I love this so much. But it's like midnight here now, so I gotta wrap this up.
Yes, do.
Yes, but this is absolutely amazing. So thank you so much. And I wish you a fabulous day because, in Down Under, the day is just starting. You're in the future.
Exactly. Thank you so much. And yes, I will email you, all the links and the bios and all the other administrative things.
Awesome.
I pulled a card before our conversation.
Magnet, perfect. Manifestors. Booyah.
Amazing. All right. Have a beautiful sleep. And yeah, we'll stay in touch.
Yes. All right. Bye.
All right. Bye.
And that wraps up this wonderful podcast episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I could have listened and talked much, much longer. But like I said, it's midnight, so I gotta get to sleep. Even though, I usually don't sleep before midnight. I'm trying to change that. But also being more compassionate with myself if I don't. And I think this was a pretty good reason to stay up because I love these in-depth conversation. I am not one for small talk. I want to dive deep. I want to hear what people think and feel and experience. That helps me self-reflect. It helps me externalize. And like I also said in this podcast episode, I need that. And we also could use that for just releasing pent-up emotions or thoughts that really are just a story we tell ourselves. And if you just give it kind of manifestation, if you write it down, if you journal on it, if you talk through it with a therapist, if you just, make a song about it, say it out loud to your best friend on the phone, it gives away the power that it might hold marinating in your head. That's usually where I go into the overthinking, overanalyzing, spiraling mode. If I just release it in some form, I can then just see how ridiculous it is, or I can see it from different perspectives. I might be able to make a change on it, take action on it, or just burn it. Write it down, stupid thought, burn it. And whatever helps, release it. Do bodily motions and dance and all of that. So it's really cool to talk to somebody who does holistic practices in a very encompassing and very varied way that is very individual and specialized to the individual at hand. So in short, I love this episode. I hope you did too. As always, all of the links are down below if you want to connect with us, give us feedback, or work one-on-one with us, or maybe if you want to be on the podcast, get in touch. Until the next episode, I see you. I hope you have a fabulous week, and bye.